Hello everyone, and welcome to another installment of the Man About Town. I'm John W., your host for this evening. For today's cast, we will be looking at that great bastion of national and local defense, Camp Pendleton. Its history began, along with the beginnings of much of the state's history, with the Spanish missionary movement and the expeditionary units sent out to scout the territory for prospective sites. One such unit was commanded by El Capitan Gaspar de Portola. On July 20th, 1769, the holy day of St. Margaret, he and his expedition arrived at a wide coastal stretch of open land, offering easy anchorages, good land, and ample good water. He found it to be good, and named it Santa Margarita. A mission was soon established, and it was named Mission San Luis Rey, and the nearby river became Rio de San Luis Rey. As other missions, it held jurisdiction over its surrounding lands, so it controlled all of Santa Margarita, as well as lands to the south and east. In 1841, brothers Pio and Andres Pico received a Spanish land grant to the Santa Margarita area. They later acquired the nearby Los Flores area, and the ranchero became Rancho Santa Margarita y Los Flores. It remained in their ownership as California became the 31st state of the USA. Now, Pio had a bit of a problem. He liked to gamble, and like many gamblers, his losses exceeded his wins. But unlike most, he didn't know when to stop, and he eventually racked up debts into the thousands, and this at a time when dollars and pesos were valued in gold and silver. He had an English brother-in-law named John Forster. John knew a good thing when he saw it, so he paid off Pio's creditors in exchange for the deed to the ranchero. John began an extensive program of renovation and expansion. He refurbished and remodeled the ranch house and realigned its operations to make cattle raising its core operation. The ranch thrived under his ownership, but there was trouble in store. A series of droughts hit, devastating his livestock. Then, to control the ever-increasing problem of straying livestock, a fence law was passed, requiring all ranches and livestock operations to fence off their entire perimeter. This was too much of a burden for Mr. Forster, so he sold the operation to cattle magnate James Flood. He in turn appointed partner Richard O'Neill to manage it. O'Neill did very well and was awarded a half ownership in the operation. With his son Jerome O'Neill as assistant, the ranch made record profits, making them millionaires in an era of gold and silver dollars. They expanded the ranch house yet again and brought in all the modern amenities of the day. But changes were in store yet again. For years, a Marine Major General by the name of Joseph H. Pendleton had recognized a need for the Marines to have a West Coast training facility to centralize and coordinate the various training activities that had been parsed out to various camps across the western United States. By the 40s, the U.S. Marine Corps had outgrown their camps and bases in the San Diego area, and with impending involvement in the war in Europe, the Marines now desperately needed the new training center that Major General Pendleton had long deemed necessary. Rancho Santa Margarita was chosen as the site of the new camp and purchased for just over $4 million. Construction for an amphibious operations base began on March 23, 1942. Construction of these initial facilities was completed in only 5 months, and the 9th Marine Regiment, under the command of Colonel Lemuel Shepard, were, in true Marine Corps fashion, marched on foot the entire distance from Camp Elliott in San Diego to the new camp, with a convoy of equipment and supplies in tow. Operations were set up, and on September 25th, President Franklin D. Roosevelt arrived to dedicate the new base, named Camp Pendleton in honor of the Major General who so clearly saw its need. It would take as its logo the old ranch's cattle brand with the Marine Corps emblem in its center. It would be declared a permanent facility in 1944, and in the following years, Marine Barracks Camp Pendleton would evolve from tent camps to major permanent buildings. The Korean and Vietnam conflicts would see even more expansion of facilities and operations. including the site of an enormous tent city for thousands of Vietnamese refugees. The 80s saw even more growth as amphibious operations grew into what would be known as expeditionary forces. It also saw increasing importance as a natural resource, with it being the unwitting host of many threatened species and habitats, including species like Bell's vireo, the California gnatcatcher, the light-footed clapper rail, the California least tern, and vanishing environments like wetlands, coastal sage scrub, river deltas, and vernal pools. It has also been a two-way force in shaping the urban landscape, on the one hand being a principal force in the growth and sprawl in North San Diego County, while on the other hand being about the only thing that keeps there from being just one giant city from Point Mugu, northwest of Los Angeles, to just south of Ensenada in Mexico. These non-military roles have been touchy issues for Camp Pendleton, and have often been at odds with its primary mission, the readiness of the United States Marines. Much needs to be done to resolve these issues, and a lot of decisions, both popular and unpopular, have and will continue to be made. It could remain an ongoing truce rather than a peace treaty, but there is hope that things could get better, while so many of the sensitive areas outside its boundaries continue to fare worse. Camp Pendleton is truly the jewel in the Marine Corps beret, and a sensitive environmental treasure to boot. It has and will continue to shape and define not only our military readiness, but our environmental and urban landscape for many years to come. That's our feature for this evening. Thank you for visiting, and we invite you back again for another feature from the Man About Town.